Hey, how's it going? So I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that kind of uh, crossed my mind. Lately, I've just been kind of taking it easy because that seemed like the right thing to do, and then I found out later it was, and I suggest everyone do it if they can. Um, and by take it easy, I just mean like what I did was really stop spending so much time on Twitter and Facebook. Although I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, I pretty much just make posts there these days. But I was on Twitter a lot and also YouTube. So I also wasn't feeling well. Like I didn't have like a cold or a flu or COVID or anything like that, but I felt dragged out and I did have like congestion and a runny nose, which I kind of always do, but sometimes it's worse than others, and it was pretty bad. So I was just feeling blah, I guess. so I'm watching shows, and I started watching right after I got through saying on Twitter how I really didn't like zombie shows, especially when the zombies were fast. And I started watching this Black Summer show, and I totally like it. So I guess I take it back, and also I don't know what I'm talking about. But this show, something I noticed was a piece of dialogue that I heard in this show, which happened before the COVID anything, which is interesting. And then on 1923, which, well, it came on during COVID, I think. Some part of it had to have been done, like the writing or the production part or something, I think had something was done during now COVID time. So in that show, the person who said it, well, they he didn't say exactly what the person in the zombie show said, which was, I have felt dead for a long time, or I've been dead for a long time. That's a line that keeps coming up. And then in this other show, uh, it's like one of the prequels to Yellowstone. The character in there, when you meet him, he is like in the African savannah, I guess, and he's like a tour guide, and he's partnered up with two native guides. So he's like a white American guy, and he's paired up with these two African native guides, and they're sort of protecting the safari, I guess, from there's been a leopard or a big cat. Well, the guides know it's a leopard. So anyway, there's a leopard attacking the camps, and they're just intense, right? So they're totally getting their dinner, and since once they do it one time, of course they're going to come back, and it's real dangerous. And he'd been in the World War, and he came from frontier country America with no amenities at all, and all manner of danger. They talk about it in the show that like danger is everywhere, like just like it is now, where we have built over all of the prairie and that, and we have all of our conveniences and hospitals and resources and ambulances that can come to you. Like it's a lot different, but death is still everywhere. Like that has not changed. Um, so that show, and then another couple of shows, like there's been so many that I didn't keep track of. I just know that that sort of same grim mindset has been there for kind of a while, but it just seems like I'm hearing it a lot more, and especially in things that I know I've been able to track came out during some stage of the COVID era. And the statements always come from a guy. Like I can't think of one time where any of the women in these shows said anything like "I feel like I'm dead," or in the case of the guy from the Yellowstone prequel, his deal is he doesn't say that he's dead or that he feels dead. He says that he pursues his life of chasing danger and death to feel something. But that's just another way of saying that you don't feel and you can't sense anything, which equals dead pretty much. So, but the thing is like, that's those, all of those lines were written by someone. That sense, that feeling is coming from somewhere. And then I started to feel like it was sort of to do with like the incel thing on one level, because I say that because in both of those shows, both of the guys that said it were highly capable men, successful at staying alive in these dire and dangerous circumstances, but their feeling seemed to be that they were weak and useless, or some other like self-sabotaging type of thing. Because we can start thinking things and then believing the crap even if it's wrong. And we have things like ego and emotion that confuse the issue, and that's not unusual for us to get sort of knocked off our beam occasionally. It should be temporary, but especially the guy that was not in the zombie story, he just like kept extending it, and like he was dragging this out. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't have been like emotional psychological factors that prevented him from reacting in any other way. But anyway, it's just this sort of really negative state of mind that I feel like I have come across in real life people on this side of the screen, like real life men. They're just so like down on everything, down on themselves, and the ones that can't find a woman, they say such terrible things that, well, it's no wonder. I mean, they blame it on us, but and okay, yeah, they can be how they are around us, and we can be like, no, and like blow them off or not deal with them or whatever. That can be totally true, but it's not a crime. No one is obligated to be with another person just because one of you has an interest in the other. If the other person does not share it with you, if it's not reciprocal, then you shouldn't expect it to work. You gotta learn how to accept no for an answer. And the thing is like, there's always a common denominator in these things that happen over and over, because I've had things that happen over and over, and I'm always in the situation too. That can never be discounted, and the same goes for these other people. And I'm thinking of like these incel guys, but it's also guys that get women. Like I've dated a lot of guys that have this sort of defeatist, negative attitude, and also this underlying thing of a lot of them want to like choke you for their pleasure and see you like basically look like you're dying. And for me, that's not only going to be fun for one person, and that won't be me. So I don't really want to do that. I mean, there's circumstances where like there's an agreement that's made, like it's going to happen, and certain things are expected, and certain things you not to expect to be done. And I don't think that line is the same in these situations that I've come across, and that's too bad, because I feel like I want to be able to give them what they need to, my God, please feel better. You feel so terrible that you feel terrible. But that's not, I don't know that that's something that would work. I don't think you can just say it or ask it. I don't know. I'm not equipped to address that type of issue. But I feel like there's hope, because recently I saw 2 different guys address the subject. And one guy that was talking about it brought up this other guy that he was like, oh yeah, he has great things to say about it. But then when I heard what the guy had to say, I heard a lot of blaming the women. And I'm sure there's cases where that's true, but like I said, if you're gonna get mad at people because they're not liking you back, then that's not being able to find a person to be with is not your only problem. Like, you got a whole bunch more to work on before someone's gonna want to be with you back. And that's the thing, I guess. Like, it took me a long time to understand this, but you don't go into like a relationship situation with a thing fully formed. Like, it has to be built up, it has to be developed, and then you also have to discover whether or not, like, ooh, maybe I really don't like this person. Like, that's your opportunity. But I've met a lot of people that are wanting to skip steps and like rush into things, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what is your rush? And nobody wants to slow down. Like, if you just want to like do the deed and get down, that's one thing. Like, to me, like, that doesn't require a lot of like groundwork. Like, just figure out, like, are we like healthy? Are we clean? Do we like understand the parameters of the thing here? Okay, go. But that's superficial, and that's physical. Like, if you're talking relationship, it's more than that. And especially if you want to deal with a woman and you haven't been able to get with one, let me give you a clue. You have to invest a lot of time with us to get things out of us, unless you have one motive in mind, you know? People are all looking for different things. So it's probably a good idea to just come out and say what you mean, what you think, what you want. And I know that's really hard, and it's taken me many, many years to be able to just do it. But, and I'm not even great at it. I don't even get out all that I want to be able to say, but you have to say stuff. I was thinking about this, and it was like, you can't be all like, at the end of the phone conversation, as the phone's going down, I'm thinking old fashioned phone, like not a cell phone, like a one that you hang up, where the phone's going down and you're like, okay, see you later. Oh, yeah, and I love you. And the person's like, wait, what'd you say? And yeah, that, like, especially then, if you heard it, then you heard it, and there would be no question. But like these days, you could be like, I don't know if I want it to be that. I don't know if I want to hear that. And you can just be like, oh, I didn't really hear that. I was putting the phone down. If it's important, I'll call back. Like, that's what I think even I would do today if I didn't want to deal with it. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a situation where everybody wants to deal with it. And so it also reminded me of, like, from the time that I was in my early teens, I started to know people that died. So I've lost a lot of people. And that's a thing that you also want to get out, is like, say how you feel about people that you have feelings for, whatever they are. Like, if you love them in any way, and you're not telling them things like that you love them or more, I would suggest you do it, because you never know when that person may not be available anymore, and you may not get a chance to say goodbye. And you don't want it to be one of those deathbed confession situations while you're there visiting someone that's on their way out and can't even really respond to you properly. Like, things that you've withheld inside, good, bad, or ugly, and to come and just like dump it all out, like, at the end, is not great for them. It's not great for you. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're talking to them at a time when they're not going to be able to come back and respond. Like, that's it, and they're gone. And then what are you going to feel like? I wish I would have. Like, that is a terrible feeling. And it's like, the deathbed confession doesn't involve a crime, and it's not even the dying person that's doing it. It's like you vomiting up all of this stuff. And it's just a metaphor, but I'm saying you don't want to be stuck in a situation like that. It's better, I think, in all relationships to say what needs to be said as much as you can. I know it's not easy, but clarification makes a world of difference. It really does. Um. So, but the back to the guys talking about the incel thing, I was really glad to see that guys are finally starting to talk to and reach out to other guys about it, because coming from like me or whatever, it doesn't go over very well very often, but they're hard to get along with anyway. Supposedly I'm hard to get along with too. I don't know about that, but I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's, I think, who needs to talk to them is like guys that are functioning better, and are able to be more socialized, and also hopefully can that they can impart some wisdom, because the thing that they seem to have the most trouble with is that people are not just doing the things that they want them to do, and it's like that's just not how the world works. And if your answer is to then start killing people, that does not make you attractive to most women. Or if you're not into women, whichever flavor you're into, they're probably not going to be into you if you're just going to want to be all killy. Like, that's unattractive. Oh, boy. So I had been feeling um, tired, dragged out, and I wasn't sick, but I had like sniffles and um, congestion. But it's also kind of normal. Like, I think I said this, but this is the second time I'm doing this. So I might not have said it, but I just wasn't feeling it, anything really. And there's sometimes these periods we have when, like, I know it to be like you something changed with you, like you learn some new thing, you got a download or an intuition or whatever it is. But if you get a whole bunch of that stuff, it needs time to integrate. So those periods are not great for functional anything for me, really. It's, yeah, it doesn't last long, but it does take some getting used to once you start noticing that it's happening repeatedly and that it happens at certain times. Like, I guess I'm kind of thick. Like, it took me a while to cotton on to this, but like I'm starting to come out of it. And I always think, oh, it's just me. And then like later I'll, get on social media and go to the right places and find out, oh, no, it wasn't just me. And I don't know why my first thought after all this time was like, it's just me. It's never just me, which is good. Because then I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm just dragging it. I'm not accomplishing anything. And it's like, oh my God, shut up. It's not just you. The whole world is not stopping because you're not. It's really not stopping because I'm not doing stuff. But, yes. I think that's about it. I had just wanted to say those things, although I did take copious notes. Let me make sure. Or not just notes, I was just writing about stuff, but let me make sure there's not something here. Oh, so yeah, the entertainment, the writers, script writers, the screenwriters, whatever, in the COVID period when everybody was locked down, which nobody is really accustomed to. Like, people didn't do well in the beginning. Like even young people I was seeing on the news were not doing well, spending time, like, you couldn't, I can't think of the word now, but you're restricted from being around other people, and then it's like the time on your own, thinking your thoughts that now you have to face, because like all of the normal things that you used to blot stuff out, all the entertainments, all the people, you can't do it. You're stuck in your house, and everybody's stuck in their house. Some people committed suicide, and that made me feel so bad for them. Like, what was going on in your head that was that terrible that you killed yourself? My goodness. Maybe it's good for you that you left if you were feeling that badly, because like, if that's what it took to make you kill yourself, what could whatever you were feeling have escalated to? And that kind of gets back to what I meant to start talking about with the writers and the COVID thing. Like, people were affected. We were all affected in some way, like by so many things, by the lack of things, by the time spent with people like that you just can't get away from ever. Like you can't get thought to yourself. And it reminded me of Yellowstone again, because people were living in like one room cabins and having like 12 kids. It was like you didn't have a thought to yourself at all. Those people all wanted their own room, you know? So, but people got better at it. But the thing is like, not just for the people that like got suicidal, but the people, just everyone, like all of the lack of stimulation lets your inner stimulation operate more powerfully. So a lot of stuff was probably coming to mind that people have been pushing down, and you just go through changes. You start letting thoughts that you need to be thinking get thought, and it's not a bad thing. We scare ourselves. Like we're afraid of our own thoughts. We're afraid of ourselves. Think about that. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna run away from yourself? You can't really. Like, just deal with you. I don't know. It was just I don't even know the word. Like, it was just such a strange thing to observe. But the result of all of this stuff coming out of people's heads and going through like the systems and getting filtered and compiled and computed, whatever, people were going through stuff. So probably brought up a lot. Like I said, stuff you didn't deal with is usually cock-a-doodle. That's why you're not dealing with it. So when the crap floats up, you're going through your stuff, and I feel like that's what was coming out of these people. Like whatever they were feeling was like their own feelings, and what happened, like I was saying, like all of these elements and events that were happening during the COVID to make our minds act differently. It was just being reflected, I think, with all of the I feel deads and I can't feel anything. And I just kept thinking, God, it's so grim, so bleak. Like the guy in the African savannah with the animals leaping and killing people, and the hunters killing the beasts, and the destruction. And really, I mean, what I saw was nature and those humans fighting back, like, stop encroaching on our territory, stop making loud noises, stop eating us, stop killing us, stop taking our teeth and leaving our corpses to rot where all of our family can see them. This guy was like dealing out death, right? The character from the Yellowstone prequel, and saying he couldn't feel anything. It's like, how could you not be feeling anything? You got life and death constantly, 24/7 happening around you. Just like in the zombie show, like once the zombies started happening, you could never turn off your vigilance. Your hyper vigilance. You could never turn off your fear. You could never turn off your suspicion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just be like, ah, all the time, but inside, because, I mean, you could run around, but in both cases, someone's going to shoot you to quiet you down so the zombies or the wild beasts don't hear where you are and think, oh, wounded human, dinner, Okay. I'm not going to do this again. I know I'm going to forget something, or I have forgotten something, but I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to let it lie. Thank you and good night.